Most people in today's society are rushing from one task to another, constantly thinking of the next task. We pass each other talking on our cell phones, typing on our tablets and laptops, immersed in our digital worlds. With information so readily available these days, some may question why stories are even important. How are stories relevant to me and what I need to get done? Though we may not take the time to consider, stories are a crucial part of our lives. An important lesson we're taught growing up is to learn from our mistakes. This allows us to hopefully avoid living through unpleasant situations. How can we learn from the past without the stories that detail past events? We have biographies of great presidents, documentaries detailing past wars, and other stories and memoirs that give insight, both good and bad, into historical facts that have shaped our nation. These stories have the ability to inspire greatness in others, as well as teach us how to avoid repeating the same mistakes made in the past. One example is the mistake made that sent British soldiers on a suicide mission in the Crimean War, related by Tennyson's poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. Forward the Light Brigade! Was there a man dismayed? Not though the soldier knew someone had blundered. Theirs not to make reply, theirs not to reason why, theirs but to do and die. Into the valley of death rode the 600. These men were trained not to question their orders, but because the story was told and retold, it made it possible to prevent others from making the same mistake. This story helps strengthen our military and makes it possible for all of us to go about our daily lives safely, protected by our nation's military. Stories are also important because they are thought-provoking. Through current events we read in newspapers and that are read to us on the daily news, we're able to watch history unfold daily. In the story Americana by Ngozi Adichie, we're told the story of a black woman who moves to America from Nigeria. In this story, she confronts racism and the different views held by people of different ethnicities. She uses hair to illustrate one form of racism. At one point in the story, the main character is trying to get a job. It isn't until she relaxes her hair to look what's referred to in the story as more white that she actually finds gainful employment. At that point, she wondered if the woman would have felt the same way had she walked into that office wearing her thick, kinky, God-given halo of hair, the afro. With each of us so wrapped up in our own technological devices these days, it's too easy to distance ourselves from someone with a different ethnic background because of stereotypes. Americana provokes us to really think about how we may be guilty of treating someone differently due to their outward appearance, rather than getting to know them. Finally, and most importantly, stories foster imagination and creativity. In our last reading, Isabel Greenberg's The Encyclopedia of Early Earth, we see how creative Greenberg is in taking many stories from different ideologies and creating her own imaginative version of events in her story. Greenberg takes the story of Noah and the Ark from the Bible and creates her own version of the god Birdman and his two children, Kid and Kiddo. In her version, Kiddo falls in love with Noah, a human in the world she created, and wants to make him a god. This angers her father and creator Birdman, and he decides to destroy the world she created. In order to save Noah, she tells him to build an ark. He builds the ark and takes animals and a few people with him, and it starts to rain, and rains for a very long time. This is similar to the version written in the Bible of Noah and the ark. Whether we're creating our own story or reading someone else's, stories expand and challenge our minds. Fortunately, there are those whose imaginations are taken further, and from those imaginations we have great stories as well as creative innovations. Creativity and imagination are the backbone of every nation, and without the innovations created by those whose imaginations were fostered and fed with different stories throughout their lives, we wouldn't have the advances in technology that we have, making it easier and easier to complete the list of tasks that seem to get longer every day.
Created using Powtoon.